We'll call together the meeting of the Bucksport Community Resilience Committee. And Ralph is here, Tracy is here, Steve is here, Emily is here, and Richard is here. Alan and Debbie are in person, and Ainsley is with us via Zoom.
What a group. So tonight's meeting, I'll just get started, and then Debbie and Ainsley will add in here. Tonight's agenda is really to think about or to plan the final details for the community workshop on the 14th, Saturday the 14th. And just to, again, set the context, the community workshop is the next to last step before coming to council with a resolution for requesting that the town enroll in the Community Resilience Partnership. So that resolution will be done in a format that the governor's office prescribes. The whereases need to cite what the priorities are of this committee. And then the now therefore statement is now therefore the town council designates this committee to be its liaison for the ongoing work of the of the Community Resilience Committee. So that's after the 14th. So tonight we have, I think this can be a fairly short meeting. We'll talk about what the agenda will be for the 14th. We've done this now with Verona Island and with Orland, so Ainsley and Debbie and I feel we're in good shape to move ahead with you. And that's really what our agenda is tonight. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Good. So, Ainsley, why don't you, we have here a copy of the agenda, and I think it's been circulated. Could you take us through the agenda for what we're going to do on Saturday the 14th? And then Debbie and I will follow on with some of the to-dos in terms of what we need to make sure we have on site in terms of refreshment maps and so on and so forth. You good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just pulling up the agenda.
You all have the agenda?
I have it.
Debbie brought a few copies, and there we go.
Okay, cool.
Good.
Great. So how this has worked previously is Alan will just kind of give you an introduction and an overview of what our role is as a service provider team, kind of what the Community Resilience Committees that you all have been working on, and then just kind of like lay some context and groundwork for what we'll be talking about throughout the workshop, and then I will kind of lead a little activity, not a game, as people were worried at the last workshop that I was going to make people play a game and not going to play a game. It's really just an activity to get people thinking about the places in the community that they care about, that they want to preserve, and also it's essentially an active listening practice where you are paired up with somebody, preferably not the person that you came with, and I have each of you kind of take some time to think about what that special place in the community might be for you, and then you talk with your partner about each of your places in a structured exercise, and then we will reflect as a group on what were the overlaps in terms of similar places that people shared that they really cared about, and what were some kind of themes that we noticed in the conversation. Was it really difficult for people to not interrupt their partner while they were talking, etc. Just so we can kind of, even if it's like more subtly, lay some expectations for just interacting throughout the workshop. Obviously, sometimes these conversations can get really emotional when people are really passionate, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, it is something to be aware of, especially now that, we're opening up the conversation to the broader community. I know that in the last meeting that we had when I was in person there was some concern that bringing in more people would kind of stall the process or just be more difficult to kind of take into consideration everyone's concerns. And in a lot of ways, this is kind of an opportunity for community individuals to, I don't want to say vent, but talk about things that are important to them, and have a voice in the process. As I said last time, that does not mean mean that you have to take 100% of everything that they say or bring up as the committee's most important priority, but it's still really important. So that's a good exercise to kind of get everybody on the same page and then establish some commonality in terms of things that we care about. And then from there, we'll kind of, again, talk about themes, talk about takeaways from the exercises, and then we'll kind of look at like geographically where people focus. Does that align with the priorities that the committee has identified? For example, like I know we've talked a lot about like the shelter or like group meeting place. Like, is that something that is that a place that other people are concerned about, for example? And then that will allow us to lead into what participants value about Bucksport, what are the threats, what can we do about it. Again, those can get potentially like people on their soapbox a little bit, so we will be there to facilitate, of course, and there is time for everyone to be heard and validated there. And the self-evaluation and 72 action items, which you all have been working closely with, will kind of be put forward as the framework to help narrow down concerns a little bit. I think that also what we did in Verona Island, which would be really helpful here, is kind of giving the community the like 5 priorities that you all have identified as like a little bit more, to just kind of narrow it down a little bit in terms of this is what you all have identified in your conversations. Not that people can't bring up other concerns, because obviously there are other concerns, but that is the direction that we're trending in, just to kind of direct the conversation a little bit. And alongside that, Alan can kind of provide some context just on like, what are the 72 items and like why those are important, why you've gone through the self-evaluation process, kind of like what the grant is, and that's kind of it. So like, what are the big themes and concerns? Debbie will be taking notes, and I'll also be, at least I'm assuming this is how we're gonna do it. While Alan's kind of like asking the questions, facilitating a little bit, I'll be taking notes on kind of like bigger poster paper so that we're all kind of looking at the same thing. And we'll also plan to have some other visuals like maps, aerial pictures, etc. Has been really helpful in the past, so that people can kind of visualize and identify the places that we're talking about. And then kind of like leading off on that tone of hope, like where do we go next? Reminding people that like this is an ongoing process that has an end goal. It's not like, yes, we are there to collect information and town input, etc., but it's not going towards nothing. Like there has been momentum is still building, there is like a light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing, to address the concerns that have been brought up. Did I miss anything?
No, you did a good job. That's what we've done. And any thoughts about that? Does it sound like a good exercise?
I think it's good, and it will fold people in a really good way.
Right. That's been our experience in Verona Island and Bucksport. We've had some new ideas that come forth, and it's been very helpful. So, Don. Ralph, excuse me.
The
Sorry.
concentration of place-based importance does not necessarily fit with some of the things that we've talked about. It fits with some, but not some of the others. And some of the things we've talked about are more general in terms of location. So I'd certainly like to see that the public portion of this is not directed solely towards place-based.
Yeah, so that was really just for that kind of like opening exercise to just like get people kind of like thinking about their happy places, or just like generally thinking about why they value the community parts of, and that way they're talking to their partner about, oh yeah, like I also love that about the community, or whatever, to kind of get people like on the same page. But moving forward in facilitating the conversation, especially within the framework of the 72 actions, it'll be much less like specifically place-based, especially since that, like you were saying, doesn't necessarily align with the priorities that have been identified.
And Ralph, you'll have plenty of opportunity to pivot from anything that seems too focused into something that's broader, and you'll be able to create a through line, I'm sure.
Love a good pivot.
So,
I think we'll be able to handle the crowd control problems of the hordes jamming themselves into the room.
well, yeah, let's talk about how we get a good group of people here. It's been in the enterprise thanks to Debbie's press release and getting that out, and Ainsley has done a good flyer. I see it posted on the door out there. I hope it's being posted elsewhere in town. I think it's on the website.
It's on the website, it's on Facebook, it's been shared. Now, the only thing that Emily just brought to my attention is it matches up, it's the same day and time as Orland River Days.
Oh, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Oh.
What time is Orland River Day?
All day.
Starts at 9.
all day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And I do think I'm juggling. I might come here instead because I don't think I'm physically able to set up a canopy and do all that without my husband, let alone the kids. So I think I might be coming here instead.
Okay.
So
And I'm sorry, what is the event?
Orland River Days.
Oh, Orland
Right.
River Days.
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't realize that was happening then.
I didn't either till Emily brought it to my attention.
I didn't.
I didn't either.
So, I will go to Orland River Day after this. I mean,
Ah.
that's,
This is actually the first year I'm not working at Orland River Day.
Oh, wow, yeah.
this is gonna be my first day working.
Wow.
It's actually a very good event. I went last year for the
It's a
first time. It
wonderful
was
event.
really a
And-
lot of
and
fun.
people can go any time of day. So,
Right.
yeah.
So, I think it's gonna be important for us who have ties in the community to really stimulate participation in this and encourage people to do both, if that's possible. One of the,
I advertised it as well.
wonderful.
I did it as well on my group, and
Wonderful.
I'm trying to get people here.
Good.
I advertise it in the newsletter.
Wonderful.
And I'm trying to push it around as well.
Good, because one of the things when we go, and Debbie will help prepare the application for getting the enrollment form completed, they'll want the sign-in sheet, and the state obviously looks to see that there's a good number of people here. That's evidence of community engagement, so that'll be important. So, how many people should we get refreshments for? What are you thinking of in terms of numbers? We in Orland, actually both in Orland and Bruin Island, I think we planned for about 30, didn't we?
How many people came to the last workshop?
20.
In the year? Or was that to Rich?
To Red.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we just had a resilience workshop. Was it 2 weeks ago now?
Right.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks ago, and we had about 20.
Well, why don't we plan for 30?
Okay.
And, if there's leftover food, it will not go to waste.
Exactly.
And,
I usually take it back to school with me, so.
it's not gonna go to my waste.
I know, right?
So,
It certainly hasn't ruined Wick, so that's fine.
So, Rich, do you have, again, just because it's a good icebreaker, aerial photographs and maps, do you have large-scale maps? Or I checked with the Hancock County Planning Commission, and they're not sure they do. They thought you might. Do you have anything that's an oversized map of the town?
The assessor should have something upstairs, and I can go check.
Okay. We
Right
would
now.
just, well, you don't need to check now.
That's okay. I'll do it quick.
And we'll not mark on it, we'll just use post-it notes, but that's a good idea to get people to do. Debbie, what are the other things we should be thinking about? And I'm gonna go grab my pen so I can write down.
Well, we will have sign-in sheets.
Okay.
And the purpose of that is really not to, track people, but sometimes there's information we wanna be able to provide all the participants. So we do try to get their names and their addresses and their cell phone numbers or email addresses. And also that helps us report back to the state as to the number of people who came. I don't think we're gonna need directional signs or anything like that. I mean, people know where the building is. Alan will have all of the supplies like, you know, pens and stickers and name tags and all that kind of thing.
I think the front door should be open for this,
Yeah,
if
exactly.
possible.
Is that the store?
The one up on the
Oh,
So is that something we need to ask Rich?
I'll ask Rich, he may think differently, he's had more experience, but I think
Yeah.
it's a little bit more accessible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
To come in
okay.
front, or just more recognizable, but Rich would know more, I guess, but that's why
And-
he's.
In terms of the form, excuse me, in terms of the format and the seating arrangement, we've typically done things with theater style seating. This seems very formal, so maybe Ainsley and Debbie and I can be off the dais. It looks a little less governmental, if that makes sense.
I agree, yeah.
It's a little,
I mean, we could
Yeah.
all be down there, couldn't
yeah,
we?
we all should be, that's what I'm
Yeah,
pointing
I
at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we all should be down there. I think
I was
it's,
gonna say, I don't wanna sit up here.
you get to do that enough, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Right, we were just thinking about the the event day and access to building. Will the front door be open?
I'll have both doors open. Yep.
Okay, we're good.
And we should, plan, to be here to set up, at least Alan and I,
Yeah,
and Ainsley probably around 8.
we'll
Will
be
the
here.
building be open then?
I'll be here.
Okay,
Good.
4 of us will be here. Good.
4 of us will be here.
Which lives here now.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Good.
And we'll have a table to
Yes.
set up refreshments or,
Maybe
Yep,
we
I
can,
can set it, I'll have everything set up out there.
or we could
Right.
put refreshments up here.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's, could do
We could
that.
use these as the table. But, so Rich, when you were upstairs, we just mentioned we'll be doing this all down there, theater style, and we'll have plenty of room for walls to put up posters without defacing the walls, and the map or areas that you have, we will just mark with post-it notes so they're not defaced. Is there anything else that we need to discuss then in terms of the flow of the day and preparations for it? I think the thing to do is just encourage good turnout and
What's, if, I mean, some aspect of it will be out of our control,
Mhm.
are we, is that, I mean, you can try as hard as you can, and if you don't get a full room, does that penalize our application or
No.
disadvantage our application?
it doesn't, it's not a, it doesn't, it's not a fatal flaw, but
No.
just, you know,
Right,
they will want to see more than just the committee.
right.
So,
Yeah. Everyone bring your spouses.
exactly, bring your
I'm still
spouse, bring your
single,
neighbor,
so-
bring your friend, and that'll be useful. We've had, we've worried about that in other events, and we've had good luck, or good success.
I feel like having it in the enterprise has probably been helpful.
Yeah, and this is a Saturday. We haven't tried a Saturday before with any of the things that we've
Oh,
done.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Well, when we did Heart and Soul, I think we did a Saturday event.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need to prolong this meeting unless there's anything else you wish to discuss. Do you have, I will ask, and again, I apologize for being ill the last time and not being able to be here. What's your sense of where you as the committee are lining up in terms of priorities, and what do you think you'll hear from the community, and where do you think the resolution will focus as priorities?
Well, I think it's really hard to gauge what we'll hear from the community.
Mhm.
I've heard a few off comments.
You have, yeah.
What are the off comments?
Well, because I've seen some people jump to political ideas of climate change. I've seen some jump reactions to that,
Mhm.
just in trying to share things, the last resilience, and also already this one. Not a lot, it's just, I think a lot of those people probably would rather not come.
Because what's the
Well, one in
jump- what's-
specific, that was her whole entire point.
Mhm.
Was that she wouldn't because she thinks it's silly, so or
Mhm.
non-existent. So I mean, it might not be an issue.
Mhm. Go ahead, Tracy.
Well, it's not direct a comment to Emily, so I can finish it.
You wanna elaborate on what this is somebody who doesn't believe in climate change or thinks it's
Yeah,
too
yeah,
political?
generally that's the,
Mhm.
yeah, that's where it's coming from.
Mhm. Understood.
And just, it's been helpful to kind of try to point it to things that have happened recently, you know, the recent storms.
Mhm.
And kind of make it about that and being prepared for that in the future.
Mhm.
That has been all that helpful. It's not been a lot of people, you know, just a tiny little,
Okay.
but
That's
it's a
helpful to know.
possibility.
Yep.
I will say, if I can just really quickly, sorry, I will say that like I do have a lot of for better or for worse experience in having conversations with individuals who kind of like hold that belief or value set that it's not important or it's not real or whatever. And I feel very confident that we can direct a conversation in a non-political way. In both of the other meetings, I've started out by kind of saying like, there is no political agenda that we are here to push. This is about resilience of your community, and that extends beyond climate change. That also extends to forming bonds that can be really helpful in other times of crisis. And yes, like what we are doing is driven by climate policy, and like that's why the community exists, and largely what we're talking about is building climate resilience. At the same time, like I first and foremost have no problem redirecting people from political conversation, but I do think by like kind of setting that tone early on, we haven't had a ton of trouble in terms of like huge climate denier type behavior, but I will happily have conversations with people if that is the hill they choose to die on at a community workshop. But it's good to know that you've heard the murmurs.
Right, and it's good for you to repeat what you just said, because that can be a way of assuring anybody who's resistant or skeptical about coming that this will not be a political event. So you can repeat that back. That feels comfortable.
I can share in Orland, there was some real concern about not using certain expressions, not using certain comparisons, but at the workshop it didn't play out that way at all. We had a really good group. They were extremely engaged, very forthcoming with their concerns and sharing, you know, what was important and threats and what they wanted to protect. We really haven't experienced that
Yeah.
as it played out actually in the workshop.
It strikes me that people attending would be fairly climate conscious to give up 2 hours of their
Yeah.
Saturday
Exactly.
anyway,
Yeah.
but I feel like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong with this group, but I sense that we were warming to emergency preparedness with the radio infrastructure for the police department, the
Mhm.
communication system, and generation at the warming space wherever that lands.
Mhm.
But I may be wrong.
That's the sense
That was
Yeah.
sort of the sense I got, and as far as if the community will land in that same space, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
If we get a more sort of engaged attendance on on climate change writ large, it'll be probably more focused on solar and some of the more innovative technologies.
Mhm.
If we get people who are attending just out of interest for other reasons, then that emergency preparedness component may
Mhm.
have some traction, but it's really hard to tell if we're going to get sort of the tree hugger type folks
Yeah.
attending who are super engaged in like all of the newer things, and or if we're going to get more of a planning kind of cohort of attendees. It'll depend. It could go any way in Bucksport.
Sure. That's helpful to know.
Yeah.
And I'll just add, and Ainsley can also weigh in on this, as well as Debbie. You know, in some of the towns we've heard excitement about bulk purchasing for generators. This, you know, the program has been changed. That was originally possible for residential, but it no longer is. So we ran up against that in Brooklyn where they had made an application for window dressers, you know, for weatherization of individual homes. That's no longer permitted. So we need to be careful to not set expectations
Yeah.
in that respect.
Do you know, I was asked to, maybe I was asked to ask you, Rich, and I never did, if a generator was something the community decided they wanted for a warming space, is it allowed under this particular grant if it's a faith-based building but not for a faith-based purpose? And Ainsley discussed that with us last week, and I don't know where to find that answer, because that's a rabbit hole we
So
won't
I-
have to go down if it's just a simple
I
not
can answer.
eligible.
I can answer part of that. Ainsley, do you want to answer? Did you do any research on that?
I mean, I didn't really find anything definitive, so if you want to take that one,
Sure.
I feel like I said everything I knew last time.
So Chief Gagan talked about that a couple of meetings ago.
Yeah.
And I haven't reported this back to him, I'm sharing it with you, but to me, I looked at the issue of government funding in general, not this program, because I know there's some real narrow windows that we'd have to navigate to get a community action grant for a generator through this program for a building.
Okay.
But what I did do was look at funding and financing from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Development Community Facilities Program. You're probably familiar with that. That's the USDA provides a lot of money for rural development, including community facilities. So the question I asked to our USDA office in Bangor was, could this be used for a faith-based organization? And the answer is, it can be double-checked. Generally, yes, as long as the generator is providing power and support for a facility that is not exclusively faith-based.
Okay.
If it has a community purpose, that would still have to be run through their counsel, their legal advisors, but that's possible. So I think that's very encouraging. Again, that's not a grant. Typically, that's low cost of financing at a low interest rate. So what's the bottom line on that? I think that if what emerges from the community workshop, what emerges from your winnowing down of priorities is a generator, we need to really focus on that, really ask some specific questions in Augusta as well as in Bangor at USDA. Ralph?
On that point, I just point out that if the generator turns on, it's this town is having an emergency.
Right.
Which is to say that it would not have any use that was exclusive to the faith-based organization.
Right.
Because if the building loses its power, that means some other portions of town
Exactly.
are out without
Actually, a
power.
big portion of town.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and this
Yeah.
guidance came from 2017.
Yeah.
Which was at the beginning of an administration that was very focused on faith-based organizations. Whether that still continues, we'd have to find out. But again, since, as you point out, Ralph, power generation during an emergency would not be to advance a religious purpose. It would be to provide protection and support for a
Yeah.
community.
And that's kind of where Ainsley landed last week.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. I just
Mhm.
wasn't sure if there was.
Right.
And I mean, I've seen a lot of even main CF's grant programs have some of the same sort of. If it's not exclusive for faith-based things, you could apply.
Mm-hmm.
But
So we can, Ainsley, you and I can do more research with with Brian Ambrette and Ashley Krolik if that becomes something that's really important. And maybe, would you have time to do a little more research on that before the 14th, just so if that comes
Yeah,
up, we have.
I
go
can
ahead.
also touch base with Ashley
Good.
as well.
Okay.
Or Ashley Klein.
Yeah, if you could
Yeah,
do,
so-
thanks. If you could do that, that'd be great. We'll have a better answer 10 days from now.
yeah, it could just save us some time if
Yes.
it's just like not
Oh,
eligible.
definitely.
Right, and it may even warrant a separate conversation with Chief Gagan beforehand,
Yeah.
you know, since he's the one who raised it.
Yeah.
We'll get the answer and then we'll proceed accordingly.
And with the loan, everybody qualifies? Because we don't qualify for USDA rural development grants.
Because you are at above a certain income level?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So if the church were to do it, again, there's many wickets to go through, aren't there? Who would be the applicant for that? Would it be the church?
Well, no, I think the applicant would still be the
The town.
town, but then it would be sort of like what we did for the housing grant that we just got. It would be a sub-applicant.
Sub-applicant. We
Yeah.
just lost Ainsley.
Oh, no.
Did we lose?
Or was it a 30-minute meeting? Oh, here she comes. She's coming back.
Maybe a volleyball came through the window or something.
Yeah, I know, right? Oops.
I'm concerned about a narrow window, a narrow path is the potential of it not working out.
The grant application, or.
Right, for a generator.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say don't go down the path, but more be prepared
Yeah. There,
with something else in the
Yeah, I mean,
event
there
that-
could be ideas we glean on Saturday we don't know about yet.
I know you discussed it at the last meeting, and I really think that there's a huge emphasis now on social resilience and what can be done to ensure that community groups, I mean, you had a really good session last week, or today. I think there's some things in there that you could really expand, and that could be a very competitive application.
Did I miss a meeting last week?
No,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
Debbie took really good notes, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I wasn't here.
Eileen Johnson.
Yeah, and before that, you were talking, it was Danny from.
Oh,
Oh,
Healthy
Danny
Acadia.
Robbins.
from Healthy Acadia, okay.
Yes,
Right.
Yeah,
and
so-
strength
So
and
I would think that what they're doing, if there are things that you believe that they can do, if there are things that need further research in terms of who the vulnerable people in this community are and how they can be benefited, that could be a very compelling application.
To
For a community action grant. In other words, I'm not trying to steer you, I'm looking at this from what I'm hearing out of Augusta and what I'm
Yeah.
seeing in terms of funders. They're really interested in making sure that disadvantaged people are not the first and the worst to be disadvantaged in climate issues. They're not the last and the least to be benefited. So if you have thinking about how Bucksport could improve service delivery or help community organizations improve service delivery, I'm not saying it's inadequate now, but I'm saying there's always room for improvement. If there's a creative way of doing that, that might be worth further thinking.
more
Does that make sense?
vulnerable populations has been echoed. The importance of that has been echoed a lot
Mm-hmm.
in our meetings
And-
as well.
Yeah. And
So-
probably least likely to attend on Saturday, unfortunately, right?
Right, so I think that's where you, using your knowledge of people, can be their voice. Not to say that supersedes their voice, but you can express those concerns. And, that is one of the things that Eileen Johnson's research was doing, really helping people identify who the vulnerable people are. With some fairly surprising results. So, anyway,
So,
I just,
yeah,
go ahead.
okay. Now, I'm just trying to, do you have like an example of like a tangible ask? So, like a study of
So,
your vulnerable populations,
so
is that what the ask was?
I think the ask would be, a potential ask could be, that you ask for money to hire a team who would do the in-depth research, who would work with the social service agencies to find out how well they know their populations, where the gaps are, really do a gap analysis. And then the second piece would be not just the research, but what's the implementation plan, and how do these gaps then get filled? And what the governor's office will do, and I've been through this grant round, I've had successful grants. One that didn't succeed, had to succeed on the second try. They really want to know what the accomplishments will be, how people's lives are changed in a positive way. So it needs to be more than just plan, it needs to be an implementation
Right.
process. Does that help?
It helps a lot, yeah.
Tracy, does our service network provide meetings that you folks have been involved with for
Yeah.
years. Is that similar to what Alan's talking about for the planning part?
Yeah.
It's a lot of this is stuff we've
You
been
already
doing
do.
before this
Okay,
department was even
fine.
created, but I don't
mean
I'm
to
not- oh no, but I mean,
negate what's being done.
yeah, no, but is there anything that we can implement from that work that's already being done?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have to put some thought into. I mean, I think part of our challenge is we've had a lot of work that's been happening
Mm-hmm.
that people aren't aware of, except the people that it's helping. From that committee, it's a really I kind of tend now that I'm at Maine CF, but when I was at home, we
Mhm.
had the health center, chief of police, chief of fire department, town manager, healthy communities representation, a couple of other nonprofits, sometimes some substance use folks came in, and
I was invited once, but I was a little confused why.
it's open to everyone, and it's sort of a rolling agenda of what's up with Bucksport as far as like if the overdose challenge, for example, when Chief Gagan was experiencing lots of overdose reversals and things like that, we brought some folks to the table to talk about substance use and how we could get Narcan and other things out into the community. With COVID, it was testing. I was representing people sleeping on library stoops, right? How do we find a resource for them? And so it's sort of a committee that doesn't have a topic but Bucksport and what Bucksport's facing in the moment. And it included a lot of sector infrastructure, in my opinion. So I think something could bounce off that. I don't know exactly what. What's interesting about that is like the gaps in needs assessment study that Healthy Acadia
Mhm.
did cover Bucksport, and so there's collaborators at that table that we could draw on. So I'm not sure if a separate, I don't know. But
So
it's-
does the network have, as a result of that gap analysis and looking at the wider community, does it have a project that it would like to implement?
I haven't been there for 7 months
Okay.
because I've
No,
been
no,
in a new
understood.
job, so I can't really speak for it. But Sue, maybe.
But that might be something that's worth exploring.
Yeah.
And if there's a,
Vanessa might be a good person to invite.
Vanessa Newman.
Yeah,
at the-
she
at the
she's-
workshop on the 14th?
Yeah, I'll reach out to
Okay.
her. I'm supposed to meet with them soon. That she's the interim director or the consultant for Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities Coalition.
What's her last name?
Newman.
Newman. Okay.
Vulnerable populations is her
Yeah.
Okay.
research. So.
Yeah,
You know, and
mostly older.
okay. Sounds like she'd be very useful, productive participant.
Yeah.
Just
So-
good, like understanding of the needs of the vulnerable populations.
Okay. Well, you all have the list of 72 actions, right?
Mhm.
Would you
Yeah.
like another copy?
Yeah, just in case.
Okay. I have a few in my briefcase.
Okay.
And, it might be useful to look at those again and figure where
Yeah.
the work of the providers network, you have some too.
Let me look.
Yeah, it's called Bucksport Service Network.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Sue, the town manager, started it in the beginning of COVID, and
Uh-huh.
it was sort of really a well-oiled machine without a blueprint or any sort of anything, but it's a good function.
Yeah, I
And
I'll mention.
Tracy, what was the name of that group again?
Bucksport Service Network,
On Bucksport.
and then there's another group, Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities Coalition, and they used to anyway do like senior rides, and they're part of that senior low income home repair program. They're partnering with Habitat for Humanity, and so they sort of are the connection with the folks in distress or in housing distress, and they refer them to Habitat. So I think you're right about Vanessa. Vanessa and the police department both have a really, and code enforcement actually, a really good sort of temperature on the pockets of vulnerability as far as income goes, I suppose. But yeah, I'm just thinking out loud, and none of these thoughts make much sense. But
So So I think that, you know, as we look at this list, I guess I don't
This
have all
is-
the pages here.
Right, this is just the F section.
This is the F section, I'm sorry. This was for another meeting, but it is relevant in terms of strategy H, which is engage meeting people.
I was gonna mention H2, which was education, outreach, and engagement, is a very broad, in my mind, a kind of umbrella type topic.
Okay.
There were, I think there were other areas that focused on vulnerability.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I will make sure, Rich, I'll make sure, if you could circulate it to the whole group, the list of 72 actions, I'll make sure you have it again.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to bring that up right now, while
So, again, sorry I'm giving you half of the 72 actions, but, it's gonna be, you know, the first one is electric vehicle transportation, the second one is buildings, so these really, toward the back end of the list are, I think, very much on point with what this committee, and what Orland has been talking about in Barone Island as well. So, well, look, Ainsley, do you have anything more to add, or Debbie?
I don't think so.
If not, we'll see you in 9 days, and looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I'm gonna run over to Bruin Island tonight because they are going to adopt their resolution.
Oh.
At 7 o'clock.
we'll adjourn our meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.